So Reddit means it's working.
Correct.
Welcome everybody to the 11:15 EDIC meeting. Can we approve? Can we take a look at the previous meeting minutes that we have?
We also have a second one to approve too.
Yeah, it said some from September.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's go back in chronological order.
Oh, this is. All right. This is.
Let's look at the September ones. Let's discuss the September minutes.
Have copies if anybody wants one. That'd be great.
Any
Yeah, I mean, I was absent for vote, so I can't vote, so pass those down.
I've got a second.
All right.
any corrections, deletions?
I make a motion to approve September 20th.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that what's the exact date?
September 20th.
So it's 9/20.
9/20.
Okay. Now on and this is for October.
Yeah.
So we'll go on to October minutes that Josh forwarded last week. Any
What's the date on that? Yeah.
18?
I have 18 here.
I don't have any changes because I wrote it. But I wrote it off of the video, so since I wasn't here. But actually, I probably can vote on it though, since I've watched the whole thing.
No, you can't vote if you're not present.
Okay. Oh, I understand that.
Any motion?
I make a motion, we pass. Second?
Good. Has it been seconded?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. So now that we're caught up in minutes, I'll forward these to Barbara. And it'll be official or historical. Okay.
Actually, point of order, you don't really need to forward them to her because pretty shoes copied on both.
Well, actually Barbara had asked me at some point not to forward the minutes to her, not to forward draft minutes, but only approved minutes. So I didn't forward them to Barbara.
Okay. I didn't know that and I did, so if you
I didn't get your email today, so if someone could just re-forward that to me.
I'll do that right now.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, and then I'll just send them to Barbara. And then, alrighty. John's not here. No, any public speak? Very good. Finding from Jamie.
We had a couple things. We have new ECA grant or ECA arts coordinator. Her name is Pasqualina Azzarello. She started on Monday, yesterday, and she's got a lot of experience. She's been working in arts and grants administration for years and comes from New York. Pasqualina Azzarello.
I met her Saturday night.
You spell it just like it sounds.
Did I come close?
Yeah, I did think about that too. So we're really excited to have her on board, and
That's great news.
if you go up to Old Town Hall and stop in and say hi and introduce yourself.
I will.
Yeah. Cumberland Farms, we have an application in front of the planning board for a new gas station and convenience store on Northampton Street by Lyman Street, near the East Hampton Savings Bank building. Cool. So that is going to, the hearing is going to open tonight at the planning board, 6 p.m., 6:30.
I think
it's
15-ish.
Yeah, planning board will start at 6. Until that hearing wraps up, the planning board's putting the sign ordinance on hold. So I don't know that anyone's made comments or gone to the, but if you are interested, that meeting's tonight at Cumberland Farms. There is a zoning amendment being proposed for changing campgrounds in our ordinance are only allowed right now under nonprofit, if they're owned by nonprofits, we've had a request to permit a commercial campground, and they got stopped by the building inspector who, so we're working with, I guess, the planning board and is working with the person to help amend the ordinance to allow campgrounds for commercial and nonprofit owners.
Where would,
Yeah.
not the applicant, but the zoning change, where would these be placed?
Well, so right now it's in the table of uses. If you look under where campgrounds are, it's under community facilities. And community facilities are defined in the ordinance as nonprofit.
No, I guess I'm sorry, I meant geographically. Is it gonna be a, like, you know?
Where within the city?
Oh, I believe it's, I don't know how much I can say, because they have.
Well, no, I mean, from the zoning though, I mean, so like.
What part of the city is zoned for?
Where would it be allowed?
I mean, so
Yeah.
right now, the way the campgrounds work, it's,
I mean, community facilities is citywide, isn't it?
Well,
day,
it's
no,
a
so day camp
municipal
day camp or
facility.
similar campground is allowed in all of the residential zones. None of the downtown business, highway business, neighborhood business,
Okay.
industrial, non-industrial, so, you know.
In your backyard, I
it's-
think.
Well, no, that's what I was just getting at, just, I mean, I'm not.
There will be community, it'll be open.
Yeah, no, I
it'll be
just wanna know
discussed by the
what you're
planning
talking
board.
about, but, you know,
I don't know
residential.
what the exact proposal is right now, but I believe that it would be probably our 35 districts is where it would seem that we have space that's available for that type of use.
Yeah. Just so you know that most trailer parks and campgrounds, which aren't the same thing nationwide, are placed in flood zones.
Really? I'm not surprised.
It's anecdotal, but
Yeah,
there's,
also
it
formula values.
is, yeah, it actually is, there's a little more truth to that, so, but I'm sure we'll avoid that.
You don't have basements for one thing, so.
Yeah,
Um,
but I'm sure we'll avoid the,
Yeah.
It's a big issue.
So can you tell us what you mean by the building inspector put a stop to it? Was
Well,
somebody
because-
having a commercial campground?
No, so they had proposed to put in a commercial campground, and because it's listed in our ordinance under community facilities, and community facilities are defined in our ordinance as being owned by a nonprofit, they were not given.
The zoning doesn't allow for such a thing.
Even though we have
Situation.
also
So
under
you could-
community facilities, we have things like solar energy facilities and hospitals, and.
But those are profit, you know, there's kind of
Right.
profit.
So the reasoning is, it's unclear what the intent of the ordinance is, whether or not all community facilities have to be nonprofits, because some of the facilities that are listed are permitted to for-profit. So.
the intent was to not have them, by making it nonprofit,
Yeah.
that was the intent, it was a backdoor way of saying no.
Right.
But you could have like a Girl Scout camp or a
Right.
Boy Scout
Right.
camp,
Yeah.
things like that, so.
So if there are comments about that, planning board will begin to discuss that, probably not until after the Cumberland Farms hearings are done.
I saw the meeting, it sounded very complicated. All these different layers of, you know, how long the lights can be on and, you know, egress issues and also it sounded like it was a pretty complicated thing to resolve.
Yeah, so I don't know where it's at right now.
People are gonna come out of the woodwork on that one.
See,
There are a couple of Community Preservation Act projects that were funded recently that might be of interest to the EDIC. There's with the Housing Partnership, a first-time homebuyer outreach, and there's some amount of funds for down payment assistance, as well as housing rehabilitation funds for low and moderate income homeowners who have building violations, to repair violations, code issues, to make their housing continue to be habitable.
Yeah. Cool.
And
Yeah, that's good.
we are also working with the state and the town of Southampton to protect the 25 acres of land in Southampton that's directly above the Barnes Aquifer, where we get all of our drinking water that provides all of the water for the beer and jobs, if not for just drinking. So that process is going to the city council tomorrow night for approval for the drinking water supply protection. If anyone wants to go to that hearing, to speak in favor or not, I guess. It's tomorrow night. And then I have two more things. Appointments, I think everyone has been either, your appointment doesn't end in December, or you should have received something in the mail by the city clerk. And I don't know if you want to let them.
Oh, I didn't think it was any big deal, but I didn't renew it.
So we'll be,
No offense, I'm not exactly sure where I'm gonna be in the next year, so.
Okay. Well, thank you for the time that you've been with us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
so just, we'll be down a member come January.
Mhm.
That'll bring us down to 8, right?
So are you telling us we should be watching for notices to renew our appointments?
No, everyone who got.
You should have received it by
You
now.
would have received it by now. I
If
believe-
you were due.
I believe that Clay was the
Okay.
only one who was up for reappointment.
Okay.
But if you are running into people who are interested, I think we have 2 available seats right now. Or we
And-
will have 2 available come January.
When does your time end?
December.
Oh, yes,
End
soon.
of December, okay. Okay.
And final thing, just to add it to maybe the next meeting is the pot legalization that happened in the most recent ballot. If people want to talk about that, because there's.
Well, I never
economic-
considered it, since the election didn't go my way, I'm very interested in it.
We might all need it.
Help us get through the
Big
next
time.
meeting.
Yes,
Might be in the safe room.
But just about that, just briefly, what we're gonna be what we would be discussing is, zoning aspects, so to speak, or
I
the
mean-
next steps, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, there are gonna be, there are a lot of things that have to happen. It doesn't take effect for a year.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is, how much of it is, local and how much of it is state, as far as implementing it?
East Hampton would still have to, it's not allowed right now under
Uh-huh.
zoning.
Okay.
So there would have to be a zoning amendment.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at, okay, I'm sorry.
For each community would have to have a zoning amendment?
Right, so it's allowed, but like, there's different components to the law that was just passed. There's, legalization, but then there's storefronts and growing. So, like, personal use is one thing, but if a city or town wants to allow a storefront or allow a grow operation, we don't, we have that, but for medical marijuana.
Yeah.
So it might be as simple as, copying and, find and replace, and,
That's what
Well, it's
we're,
good, it's good
that's
for
what we're.
yeah, and it will be the planning board and the city council that eventually are tasked with that. But if the EDIC has any thoughts or comments or concerns, now would be the town to, yeah, or going forward be the time to sort of be a part of that process.
There are some components of it which I believe take effect December 15th, which allows people to grow plants in their home, and maybe a commercial aspect to that will be, it's already legal actually, and it may involve storefronts, is selling the equipment to do that, to grow indoors. typically referred to as indoor tomato growing apparatus. Because they enjoy the same kinds of like
Yeah,
everything, so you can already do that, but you know, for sort of specialized in that may be one.
Well, they have the.
Prior.
There is one in
So,
Southampton.
that's just
Yeah.
retail still.
No, I know, I understand. I
But like some
understand. I'm
counties
saying
are,
it's a-
some counties are dry counties where you can't buy liquor. So it could be like related to that. Some counties may opt saying, yeah, okay, maybe
Well,
legal
they-
statewide.
So
you
I
can't.
have a copy of the, information for voters, which has, it's question 4 and has the full text of the ballot initiative. So if people are interested in taking a look at it, so we can discuss it the next time.
Got one of them.
Yeah, I understand that, Colorado, the unintended consequences.
Yeah, I didn't think I figured mine out.
That some of this stuff wasn't, they weren't so focused on just getting marijuana legalized, they didn't focus on the food aspect. And it was some, you know, I don't know if it worked out, but the dust had to settle on how that was gonna be. So I don't think ours will be as bad. I think it'll just be, you know, we'll put it next to the campground.
Yeah, they-
But maybe if a bakery wants to sell,
Yeah.
you know.
No, but we'll add it, you know,
It's
it'll
already
probably
existing.
be one of those things that, I don't know when the planning board is going to, how aggressive they'll be when it gets on their radar. I guess we could, you know, by then there'll be a little more information and we can pick up on it.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. I'll sit there.
Mhm.
Okay. What?
I said, thank you.
Yeah. And then ECA, I know Amy just mentioned a new hire.
That's all I got.
Very good.
Well, they had an unveiling of their plans
Mhm.
for the old city hall.
Well, that's not
The
ECA
upstairs.
plus though.
Oh, okay.
That's
Gotcha.
city space.
City space.
A lot of us in the public do conflate the two of them.
Yes, two separate boards, so
Yeah.
two, yeah,
Yeah,
two separate
okay.
boards. And I'd be glad to talk about it, because I'm on the
Oh,
board.
sure, that went well.
Yeah, went very well. I think we had at least 50 people, if not more. I mean, 50 people signed up. Casey made some wonderful hors d'oeuvres that got snapped up very quickly. And Kuhn Riddle did a presentation. There were some questions, and did a tour of the upstairs so people could kind of understand things. And I know that we are applying for CPA funds to get the drawings into a state where we can actually put them out for bid. So, yeah. So I think.
Estimate for the project was?
$5 million. And we could get almost 500,000 back if the mayor allows us to have a 40-year lease. Because right now, we can only renew it every couple of years, or 10 years is the most. But with a 40-year lease, you can actually get federal tax credits, which come back to the city. And for that project, it would be close to $500,000. But you have to have a 40-year lease from the city.
And state law doesn't allow leases that long.
Yeah.
There's some.
Yeah, so we have to go to the state if the mayor says, and the
Legislature
city counts it,
change,
and then it
yeah.
has to be, yeah.
Wow.
Never said no.
No.
Do you want to talk about like the arts or small works or anything?
Small, I don't know that much, but I'm not on, you know, but I know there's a big light up there, it's fashion show.
Yeah, so it's the annual fundraiser.
Yeah.
December 8th. I believe.
Yep, 8.
If you're interested, go to easthamptoncityarts.org and there's tickets to support the arts. You can donate even if you don't want to go.
And I think
December 8th, right?
December 8th, and it's gonna be over in the Eastworks space at the end, the far end.
Okay.
And then
West End, I guess that's the West End, and Laudable Productions is doing lighting and stuff, so it's going to be a little more, you know, kind
The
of Las
fashion-
Vegas-y or I
It's a
don't know.
fashion show, I guess,
It's a
right?
fashion show,
Fashion
yes,
show,
yes,
they're
so
calling
they
it.
want people to dress up. And that's, yeah. Yeah, that's all I know.
Oh, good, no, that sounds good. I mean, the old town hall, which isn't, like you say, part of ECA, but, that's very exciting, you know, it might take, I don't know how many, well, take a while longer, but it's,
Well, we're shooting for, if we can get the CPA funds, then we can get out to bid by the spring. And, you
Yeah, it's
know,
aggressive,
Yeah, we're trying to be aggressive.
So when you say out to bid for what?
Well, now bill for the actual construction, because Coon Riddle, we got a grant for Coon Riddle to do the drawings,
Right.
and then now it has to go to actually cost estimate, put everything, all the detail. You know, the little
Yeah.
nitty details, the mechanicals, the
But then you have
electric.
to find funding.
Then we have to find funding, and I know that there's some funds in the state that we are gonna apply for.
Sure.
For that.
So
And
the-
then start a capital campaign too, will be starting
Oh, okay,
very soon.
okay.
And you said the price tag was $5 million?
5 mil, yeah.
Is that something that's gonna have to go before the voters?
No, nope, there will not be any, no.
Override.
Override. No, somebody asked that question.
Very good, so, well, maybe part of the infrastructure plan that's coming up.
We're eligible.
Anything on the plastic bags? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just running through that new liquor license, any,
Same word, haven't
got a
heard.
button, okay.
Haven't heard their last meeting was 9 minutes.
We should try to beat that. That's pretty fast, that's,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, that was a lot though. And then, Mo, number 9, you passed out,
These are cool.
Yeah, these are our new gift card guides. I showed you the draft the last time we got together. This is the final piece.
Nice.
For the holiday season. We'll be printing another one in the summer time, and then this will actually be the insert in the chamber directory, which will ultimately go out
Okay.
to the masses. So, and the list continues to grow, so always check online. We have some new folks. who are
I'm a
popular.
recipient of one of these beautiful cards.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Can you order them online?
Yes, sir, you can.
Nice, thanks, great.
Yeah.
I was glad to see that.
Presents.
Yeah. And I was excited too, when I set up the e-commerce page and I had everybody listed, I've got you linked to
Right.
your website, so it's
oh,
pushing people out to you guys.
Interactive.
Yeah.
That's good. Really nice.
cool. So you're in good shape for Christmas and stuff?
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Well, actually, I guess everything starts next week, so.
Yeah.
Number 10, we're just waiting to hear from Jessica and,
Yeah, so she is doing the planners, the Mass Association of Planning Directors are coming out on Friday. And that's a closed event for
Yeah.
planners, but then, I think she's just waiting, I don't know where that process is right now for the EIC. But I can check in with her for the next meeting.
great. So I'm gonna jump to, number 11, just, pass out, this is just an article, in Mass Live a while back about, just an announcement of, a grant that Greenfield received for, to build a downtown parking garage. And the whole point of it, the article is self-explanatory. The point of it isn't so much that we should be looking for a parking garage. I wanted to tie it into, we mentioned it last meeting, and Jamie mentioned that maybe we should, and I neglected to do it, put it under one of our items regarding future use study of the the potential of 3 schools being changed. And my whole point of that, where the parking has some relevance is that in order to get these kind of grants, you have to do work ahead of time. That's all. A parking garage might be an idea, but it's not so much that I'm looking for a parking garage. So for next meeting, I'll just put it on an agenda item is, I guess, I'm just gonna call it for now, a future use study committee. We did kind of kick that around last time a little bit about the different possibilities, and someone mentioned, I think it was Jamie, that you should be a little more proactive. Not wait for the override to pass and then decide what we're gonna do with the buildings.
Mhm.
In order to have some input, it might take on a life of its own from some other group, but we can just add our part.
Okay.
This is just a little fluff piece on And Greenfield obviously has, you know, their parking garage is, in some sense, a little more suited for Greenfield than us, and they're more of a hub than we are, you know. And of course, they have the transportation, infrastructure up there. So that was that. And then the last thing, I'll ask for new business afterwards, but I just wanted to add that, is I wanted to, hear if anybody had the time to review the, what do you call it, permitting report, and if they had any ideas, thoughts, or, non-thoughts.
I didn't necessarily have any new thoughts, but I thought it was a well done.
Uh-huh.
I saw the recommendations I thought were sound and reasonable, considering what other communities are doing.
Yep.
I really like the recommendation of the roundtable pre. Does that make sense to you?
We started to do that on a.
Have you?
Yeah,
Already?
for some projects,
Okay.
we're starting, we just wanted to do that when she first came in, and it's been on the, it's sort of for larger projects that have more complicated permitting,
Right.
but it's been the exception rather than the rule, so I think this report is trying to encourage that to happen more regularly.
I had the opportunity to, when I was in Westford, to sit in on a couple of their roundtables, and every department head was there, and it was very interesting, and even smaller projects, you know, it was really a reality check for folks, you know, and it was either you went home back and did your homework and you thought of the things, or you didn't.
Well, I think it's good. I think on bigger projects, it's a little bit more of, just kind of like a final checklist, because sometimes they're aware of all the requirements, but I think where it might become useful is on, smaller ones where, you know, somebody has a dream and, you know, and they're just so focused on maybe getting open,
It's exactly what I'm saying.
you know, and there's other things, you know, and, in January, the building code's gonna change a little bit, and, there's no way that the average person can, you know, be on top of that.
No, and I saw a lot of folks who came forward. It was really, I could see the light bulbs going on in their heads, and it was really very useful and very helpful. And it was helpful for the city, on the city end, because then they weren't kind of everybody going in the circle. It's pretty. I thought it was useful.
I was noticing that the report is based on comparison to surrounding communities, whereas most of the communities that are surrounding communities have a significantly higher population. South Hadley was the comparable to our population size, and they only do it once in a while. It's as needed. So just from I work in a building department in Chicopee. We have 3 inspectors, so it's easy for us to do these kinds of things we're talking about because then somebody covers the office.
Right.
In a place like East Hampton, the building inspector has to sit in. You know, maybe that can be a problem, not having coverage. Anyway, that was just one observation I had, is that the size of the department might make a difference in terms of how you can handle this.
Well, and the bigger ones, that is overcome because, like, when the Cumberland Farms had theirs, Jessica scheduled it 4 weeks out. I mean, but obviously it's a bigger project, and you're pulling people in from all over, so that was kind of easy to do that. But you're right. I mean, especially with our Fridays, the city hall's closed.
On the other side, I noticed that, and I don't know how deep the East Hampton is into using View Permit yet. Is that happening well? Are all the departments connected?
It's working.
14? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, in South Hadley, we used.
So is it a user issue?
It's a it works for departments that have like full-time employees. It doesn't work as well for where there's a special permit requirement to get Conservation Commission approval, where we have volunteer members who don't have city computers and need to be on the city's network in order to take out a license. So it's not perfect for exactly how we use it or how we need it to be used, but it has made things simpler for the city departments. And there's, you know, and it's, the planning board's using it right now, the building department's using it. The zoning board of appeals has not switched over to it yet.
What's the program called?
View permit or,
We use view permit.
yeah, and in South Hadley, all of the permits that were coming in, whether over the counter, there was online permitting as well, but they all went into the system. And as soon as the system is set up so that a specific type of permit application would trigger input from the relevant departments. So then they, from their remote locations, you know, feedback in, and as people review the application or have input on it, they message it, and then permits don't issue until everybody has weighed in on it. So it can be problematic depending on some people don't get around to it. And I'm hearing that might be part of the problem with the volunteer committee for conservation.
Well, it's not that they don't get around to it, it's just that
They're not on it.
they don't have access to.
So like if the planning department bought a laptop and gave it to them, that could have a city license, but their own laptop can't have a city license
Right, and they would still have to be in this, they'd still have to be
in the building.
in the building.
So if we had a conservation agent, that would overcome that.
And that was one of the
Except that,
differences.
yeah, and so,
in South Hadley.
if the conservation agent was authorized to make those determinations and reviews on
Oh, I
behalf of,
see.
you know, so the
Yeah.
Board of Health has authorized the Board of Health agent to do that, so when there's ever questions about Board of Health issues, Jackie speaks on behalf of the health department and them, but we don't have a conservation agent, so that doesn't.
But it seems like it's still progressing.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah.
in the 1800s.
Right.
Well, we were. Not too long ago.
And then there's still some other issues that are related to storage of, you know, how are digital documents stored and accessible, and so we still do need some paper copies, and you know, the city clerk's files are all paper, so it doesn't completely eliminate all the paper.
No.
I thought it was interesting too, just the difference between the fees in the surrounding towns and counties. I don't know if that's.
Well, I think,
I mean,
I think our fees I've always thought our fees are low.
well, it seems like they are,
Yeah.
and I'm surprised that we haven't come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just,
Having.
well, I mean, I think partly it's that I think a lot of towns, municipalities use fees as a way to deter applications.
Yeah.
So a lower fee makes us more accessible to small, you know, a small business owner who wants to get a site plan approval.
Do we get more though? Do we?
I don't know that we get
Interest-
more,
if
but I
interest-
don't know what the effect would be if we raised the
Raised it?
fees.
Uh-huh.
We also are, you know, if we were to raise the fees, we have to justify that the cost of the fees have to be related to the time and effort.
So we probably haven't really done like an assessment as to how much it really costs us.
We have ideas about how much staff time is required to, you know, to process an application and write, you know, do all the
Yeah,
administrative.
well, this report says $100 is worth 2 hours, so that's what they put out as planning to go into the report. This equates to a couple hours.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's room to, you approach it from the way you mentioned, there's room to move them up without having to worry about going too high.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's helpful.
To see the comparison.
Yeah.
You know, some of those towns they compete amongst themselves.
Right.
You know, for.
And then you compete yourself out of the market too.
Yeah, so I thought that, you know, if those were those fees, I said, well, I guess we have some room. But,
Do you think people would, I'd like to think that people want to move to East Hampton and establish business here because they like East Hampton. And if a fee was $50 more in some other town, how would that make a difference?
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, as long as it's not egregious, I don't see why the fee, you know, I mean, if the fee is, you know, nutty, I guess that might make someone say the heck with it, you
Yeah.
know.
But I think also in comparison of fees and departments, it would be worth, well, you can see the comparison of fees, but what should those departments that we're comparing to are actually solvent in the end? Are they paying for their operation?
Well, so the thing is,
Overall.
the way that the state allows us to collect fees is that they have to go to the general fund. So they don't go to the planning board, or they don't go to the planning department, they just go to support the general fund of the city, so, you know, it's,
It's not really.
unless they have a special act of the state legislature that allows them to direct those people.
To an enterprise fund, yeah.
And that's, my understanding, that's not how most of the planning fees are.
Yeah, they're not structured.
Well, it is, I hear what you're saying, but in the end, you know, I've worked in 3 building departments, and every one of them, I've watched them have to rectify the expense of the department as opposed to the fees collected, and how much of a rub that can create from the town administrator or the mayor by saying, what are you doing here? You need to do something, because your operating, the building department is actually siphoning more money from the general fund than you're putting into it. So that's what I'm, you know.
Right.
And the fee setting is actually guided by those kinds of, that kind of information. And it's always a bit of a struggle to say, well, in South Hadley, for instance, there was some idea there that if commercial permitting fees were really low, that would attract commercial business. But you're looking at $200,000 projects, and they're getting a break of like $100 on a fee, and you're going, well, that's insane. I mean, you know, and the department was losing money, so it's like something had to. There's always talk about we got to do something about the fees. So I think that in theory, a building department should be charging fees that will sustain the operation of the department. And that's taking into account also long-term, in some cases, storage of papers, documents.
Well, so when you
keep
say that,
documents for a long time.
I disagree over the years with the thought that a department has to pay for itself, because my children don't pay for themselves. I mean,
No, exactly, it's a cost of doing business.
Right,
Yeah.
but
It's a-
the
I have stuff
overhead,
on my menu that
overhead
doesn't make any money.
administration,
It's just the
not
way it is.
payroll, I think is a worthy goal. You know, you have to invest some money, like for storage,
Right, right,
and for the
right.
ease of the public, but you know, I've seen it, I mean, I've seen it when an administrator comes in and says, you know, yeah, you brought in $100,000 in permits, but you spent $200,000 in salaries, you're losing money. You're like, well, not really, because you know.
Generate more tax base.
Yeah, and not only that, you have to be here, we need a building inspector. You know, but,
And I mean, we also, you know, we collect fees for permitting, but then once you go to pull your building fees, because most fees are tied to some sort of construction, you're getting hit again with building fees that are tied to the dollar amount of the improvement.
Yeah.
So, in some ways, and because it all goes to the general fund, and everyone in the city pays taxes that support government, like this is, we don't, fortunately, in the planning department, we're not dependent on making those planning board fees pay for all of our salaries.
At present.
Not present. I mean, I personally, yeah, they could go up, but.
well, I mean, that will, I'm sure that will be, discussed. I don't know, if these things go forward, you know, the zoning changes are, under the city council preview. Fees, I don't know where that is. I don't know if that's just the mayor or the department heads. I don't know, you know, I mean, I'm sure there can be discussion about it, but I think that's almost like a side issue.
Yeah, I don't think that requires anything more than just a recommendation and the mayor saying that that's okay.
Well, I think it's good that we take the time to take a look at this and then digest it.
Yeah.
And at least be aware of where we stand within the region. And, you know, not that, I don't know, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how the EDFC is going to be.
Well, my feeling was that, you know, when either the mayor or the planning department put something forward, that we would, relook at it, and then if there was a consensus on a letter of support, we'd go, and maybe discuss a little bit, or if they wanted some input.
Okay.
Because I kinda see it as, I think it's a great start. I mean, I'm open-minded to maybe even including commercial a little bit, but this is not, the study was not about commercial.
Right.
And I think, and so I think I hate to say this, but it's kinda like a first step, because this, from the point of view, say this was accepted as proposed, there needs to be some analysis down the road, like, well, okay, should we expand our mill industrial area? Or do we have enough, or what's our capacity? I mean, but one thing at a time, and get this out of the way, it might take 6 months. And then at some point in time, the town's needs to say, well, we wanna grow our revenue, do we need more mill space? I'm just throwing things out, do we need less mill space? Should we, should we think about industrial park, or, I'm sure that'll be guided by maybe an additional study, all things being equal, but one thing at a time.
Right.
I thought it was a very comprehensive study, and I didn't think we lined up poorly around our area communities. I thought we were right in there. And I think, a lot of the chatter at this table has been about simplifying some of the things to assist people with coming to the city, and it has that direction, so, I thought it was a good read.
Yes.
Okay, so then, I guess,
I mean, the bigger question was the special permitting situation and trying to maybe not have so much of that. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, try to streamline that.
Well, that's the
Well,
part.
My, understanding of it was that they were making the recommendation that we look at our table of uses to determine whether or not where we require special permits is really necessary. Or, could it be that we're requiring a special permit when the site plan approval is more appropriate?
That's what I was thinking.
And to tie it into thresholds of impact or potential impact, rather than just, the use being that this, this use requires a special permit. That's more of like, if you're having, I think it was more than 100 new parking spots, or more than a certain amount of square footage.
Right. So something triggers it as opposed to everything.
Yeah.
Which I think is.
And so that's and I think that's a good discussion to have. The larger discussion is, if we start going down that road for new industrial uses, does it make sense to have that discussion for the retail and service and community facilities? Does the entire table of uses need to be looking at? But that's a bigger discussion. That's bigger than what they were looking at for this report.
But it could lead to that, looking at that whole table.
Right, and so, again, I think if they, along these recommendations and thoughts on this, if the EDIC wants to put it forth, that we, look at that, or not necessarily we, the EDIC, but we at the city, review that whole table of uses, then, I don't know what the whatever.
Well, right, yeah, but I think, I'm glad everyone took a look at it, and I think for now, we'll just kind of wait until there's a lead, and if there's no lead, I guess we could say, well, we're asking for a lead.
What's the status?
I don't know, I understood that the mayor was gonna put something forth through the planning department. I could be wrong on that. But if that's the course of action, we just need to wait for that to happen. And then we can jump on board, but and then unless she communicates to us, well, I want you to take the lead, I'm just, discussions.
Sure. Yeah.
And then,
Good place to start.
okay, so that's that. And then,
Excuse me.
you're excused. See you later. Yeah. I'm gonna go back to number 11 again, just under new business for the good of the board. Anybody have anything?
Like I said earlier, having that discussion about.
Yeah, I have that, add for the next meeting.
And please, we would set that.
Yeah. And then, I will not be at the next meeting, so could you run, fill in for me?
Sure.
December 20th, is anyone gonna be here?
Is it?
December 20th?
I don't.
Is anyone gonna be here?
Actually, I'm just getting back from Cuba.
Well,
Well, you should decide now.
yeah, no, if that's the case, we could, bump it, you know.
Mhm.
December 20th is the, Tuesday before, well, Christmas is on Sunday. We could go right into January, 3rd or 10th maybe, or not 3rd. January 17th would be our regular meeting, we could skip the December meeting.
That's what I would
Yeah,
suggest.
I would
so I would
suggest
suggest that too.
Very
I
good.
try to cram it in because
Yeah.
between now and then it's just gonna.
Yeah.
I should be back on board, for, January 17th.
Mhm.
If everything goes right. So,
It's gonna be nothing but gift cards.
so, okay, well then, I'm glad yeah, that's fine. So we're gonna skip the December meeting. Unless we feel we need to call an emergency meeting, which I think is very unlikely. And, the only emergency around then is last minute gifts.
Yeah, which can.
Well, and I have an answer for that.
Or whatever floats your boat that time of year, but, it's a rush. So, okay, well, great, and then, this meeting is closed,
So the next meeting will be.
January 17th.
Yeah.
Alright,